This is a field in the middle of nowhere in Oxfordshire. There's a barn just over there, and that's what I'm interested in. I'm not here for a walk. I'm not here to worship Clarkson's farm. I'm here to look at something that's been locally and ethically altered. It hasn't been grown here. It's a Resto Mod. A Resto Mod of probably the most commonly Resto Modded car out there in our car world, the Porsche 911. But the company in question, that barn just over there, is called Theon Design, and they maybe make 5 cars a year. And what they do is they change lots and lots of little tiny things, and the sum total is something amazing. And yes, it's expensive, or it's cheap, depending on how you look at it and what you compare it to. But I'm here to drive this particular version, which is the Targa. I love Targas because they don't look rubbish like convertibles, and coupes, they're a bit common, frankly. This has got 400 horsepower, and it's a lovely autumnal morning. I'm going to find some decent driving roads. Come with me. I'm Jonny Smith. Welcome to the Late Break Show. This episode is sponsored by driverreviews.com. This is a very immaculate barn in the middle of nowhere. It's not massive. This is not a massive business.
Nope.
And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. This is a very, artisanal cottage industry, right?
Definitely. Everything is so tailored that we do. So we have to spend so much time on each car with every client. So we're a small team, and we like to make sure that we spend that time with the clients to make sure it's a perfectly bespoke build to them.
Yeah. You have been in business for?
About 8 years now.
And you've built how many cars?
15 cars, I think it is.
Yeah.
Plus 3 restorations, so about 18 cars.
Okay. So this one that we're stood next to here, obviously hard top, left-hand drive. So presumably this is not staying in the UK.
No, so actually most of the cars we build go abroad, and this is one of them. So left-hand drive, right-hand drive. It makes no difference to us in terms of the builds. We just build for wherever people want it to go.
Yeah, and this whole idea of Theon Design was born out of you building a car for yourself, am I right? And people looking at it and admiring it, and you realising you worked as a designer at the time?
Yeah, so my background is car design, and I've always loved 911s. So, just from a little boy having a little Matchbox toy, all the way up to doing car design, and Porsches are just the most beautiful classic. The thing I love most about them is that they're practical.
Yeah.
It's not something that's going to break down every 5 minutes. And that's something I've always, I'm a very practical person. So.
Well, that's the package, though. That I think that is the draw. It can be as fast and raw as you want it to be, but it can also carry a lot of luggage. It can also carry 4 people. Yeah. And you can leave it
as long as they're very small for the back.
Small for the back. So it started with a Matchbox toy?
Yes.
Have you got it still?
Yep, still got it.
Where is it?
It's in my office. Do you want me to grab it?
Go on, prove it. Prove it to the viewers. He's actually got it.
So there is my original little Matchbox toy.
That's great. What a colour. Sunroof model.
Yes.
Yeah. Opening doors. So, Targa. Second Targa you've ever made.
Yep.
5th UK car you've made.
That's right, yes.
In right-hand drive. And I love a Targa.
Me too, I absolutely love the Targa.
I think we said this off camera when I first turned up this morning. Cabriolet 911s are a bit crap looking.
Yes. Yeah, they're not great, especially the early stuff.
The early stuff.
But the Targa still kind of retains that cool shape.
Yeah.
The only thing that wasn't great about these back in the day was the chassis weren't exactly rigid.
Yeah.
So one thing we've done that makes a huge difference in the Targa, which hopefully you'll see today, we actually bond in some carbon tubs into the original chassis to actually get the same torsional rigidity as a coupe, but in the Targa.
Really? Okay. I'm right in thinking, if I've done my homework, steel doors.
Yep.
So
although we can offer carbon.
You can, but so you've still got a good solid thunk. Thunk's the word. But these are carbon?
Yep.
Carbon?
Carbon.
This is carbon?
Yep.
Carbon bumpers?
Yes.
So this whole rear quarter is carbon?
Yes, which is bonded on in the same way as the original Porsche panel was as well. So instead of where it would have been seam welded, it's all bonded in the same places. And then obviously the engine lid and spoiler are all carbon as well.
And this is neat, this thing here, so this moves?
Yes, yep, so that raises in the same way as the original 964.
Yeah.
Spoiler raises with speed.
Yeah. And so the thing is there's an enormous proportion of carbon, but yet in this way that is so synonymous with 911 people, it seems, you almost play it all down.
Well, it wants to feel like a classic Porsche. It wants to be a coherent classic Porsche design.
Yeah.
And I think if it was all, showing carbon fibre in every single place that it is, it wouldn't have that such classic feel, and wouldn't feel like the Porsche ethos that we try and uphold throughout the business. The whole thing throughout the car has this subtle aggression. I think that's probably the best term. The arches we're 10 millimeters wider than a 964 turbo.
Yeah.
And so that subtle aggression goes throughout the whole driving experience as well, which hopefully you'll enjoy.
A subtle aggression. I like that. I like that. See, this was for me one of the things that made me realise that you, running a business like this, it's so much about the passion and the look. So you've gone to the effort of making a Theon Design logo pressed into the metal.
Carbon fibre.
Sorry, pressed into the carbon.
So because the original cars in the centre panel used to have a circle and lines.
It did, that's right.
So, but it was for the pressing for strength. Obviously we don't need to do that because it's carbon fibre, but it's just kind of a throwback to the early cars and just put our little spin on it. And once again, as you say, as soon as you put a number plate on it, you'll never see it. It's the fact that they're there and we know they're there and the clients know they're there. Mm-hmm. That's what matters more than people actually physically seeing them.
Yeah. Lovely autumnal day. Autumnally hued car. The idle is really, really lumpy. Almost sounds like it's hunting on those individual throttle bodies. And it feels like the flat six is sort of trying to yank its way out of the body mounts laterally. And I thought it would be rude really to not remove the Targa roof, which Theon have actually adapted so it fits under the front, into the boot, shortening some of the pins by 3 mil. Because I didn't know this, but the original Targa, the roof can't fit in the front, so you have to just put it in the back, which seems like a tragic waste and a tragic lack of practicality for a German company. And I'm going to pull these stops as we come out of this village. And suddenly you get the bellow, and I'm really looking forward to feeling and hearing what it's like. And it just sounds bloody sensational, really. I mean, it's a smidge over 400 horsepower, this 3.8. You can spec a 4 litre if you want, all air cooled, all 964 derived crankcases, heads are billet, custom, those Gen V individual throttle bodies, trumpets, this one's got that plenum. So you hear an enormous amount of induction and exhaust, more of the latter on the overrun, more of the former when it's under throttle. Let's do some listening. I mean, mean, the response is fantastic, obviously naturally aspirated, but there's two things that spring to mind here. When you downshift, you know that this is a light and flywheel car, because I mean, just the response of the throttle, it's just so instant. It's very, very addictive. And this is obviously loud setting. And then when I click that in, the valves close. I've got a similar exhaust solenoid setup in my Dodge Charger, and it allows so much more flexibility. It allows you to be, you know, not a nuisance and a stroker, and neighbourhood watch friendly, and then with a push of a button, if you want to showboat a bit or get the full orchestra, you can, and I just think it's great. I know it's on a lot of production cars these days. Aston have been doing it for years. For me, the response test is always, you know, second gear. Let's say I'll get it up to 3,000, which is about 30 miles an hour. 3,000, I'm actually up quite a steep hill, and then I'm going to clog it. Just fantastic. And when you get over that kind of RPM, the exhaust solenoids open anyway. You know, I'm not going to be giving this car death in this review, because simply put, I'm on the road and it's not my car, and a customer has waited 18 months to have this built. British customer, British car. This is actually their second Theon Design car. They've got a hardtop, a coupe already, and they've ordered this specifically to be a softer car with a more touring specification, hence these touring seats, which are very comfy and electrically operated down here, very discreet. And even with all of this sound deadening and leather and lovely stuff like that, it's still nearly 300 kilos less than a Targa 964. So that's over a quarter of a ton, and obviously the power is 400, which is why it's so responsive and eager, but I guess flexible, because I can short shift and I've still got all the torque that I would want. Oh, bloody hell. It's an art form, isn't it? So,
thank you.
Individual throttle bodies.
Yeah, with our own connection method to the actual plenum or trumpets. So they're actually got spec clips, so that you can actually just take them off with a pair of pliers. It takes about a minute to take off the plenum. So
this is like, so you can either have just velocity stack type individual ones, or this kind of,
or you can have the plenum.
Shared.
Yes.
Yeah. Adam finds it so appalling that the bright red jars with the rest of the engine bay. That,
well, you've got red and yellow right next to each other. Who'd do that?
So he stitched a sleeve. It has its own sleeve over the oil filter. So with all this carbon fibre, and the mad thing that you said to me was, we will build a steel car for a customer without any carbon panels.
Yep.
But it's more expensive.
Yeah, so it's purely and simply a labour aspect, because to build a steel car takes about 14 weeks to hand beat it, whereas obviously carbon fibre, you lay up in a mould and put it into an autoclave, and
there it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
So it's sort of 14 weeks to 2 weeks in comparison.
That's amazing. I would never have considered that whatsoever. And here you can see, is that the electronic solenoid exhaust?
Yes, so this is the valve for the exhaust, so it can either go into the back box and be a lot quieter, or be effectively a straight through with a cat.
So I know that 911s are the most popular Resto Mod. You know,
yes.
And there's a reason for that. Which I think
they're just a great car to start with.
They're an amazing car, but I was going to say there's a few people doing it, and obviously Singer's probably the best known and has been around I don't know how long now, but a while. So how do you feel about where you sit in the market? What are you doing differently to them?
I think there's quite a few players in the market that all have their own angle on doing a Resto Mod.
Yeah.
I think our biggest USP is the fact that we do make these cars so bespoke, so tailored to the customer, and the fact that we try and do everything in such a Porsche way. I mean, even things like the rolling tyre diameter is the same as the original tyre diameter as the 964.
Is it?
Even though the front tyre is the same width as it used to be on the back.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to change the driving characteristics of the car. We don't want to take anything away from what Porsche did.
Yeah.
It just wants to be added to, enhanced, made better.
Yeah.
Because these cars were built 30 years ago, and they're tired and old now. And it's nice to be able to give them a new life, because most of them are, especially cars in the UK, are starting to rot. And if we can give them that new life, it's not about destroying a classic 911, it's about giving it a new life. Porsche made, 70,000 964s. I mean, that's a lot of cars. Yeah. There's not that many Resto Mods. I know it seems like there's quite a lot, but I mean, we do 5 a year, so we're not really... And as
You're not flooding the market.
We're not flooding the market. We're not taking thousands of 964s off the road.
Yeah.
And as I say, I would rather take a car that's done 250,000 miles plus and give it that new life rather than a perfect garage queen, because they're great cars to start with. It's only because they're tired and old that we improve them.
Theon Design 911 Resto Mods all come on Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres, but they have a good size sidewall. So you want decent comfort out of the car, good ride, but you also need immense grip because of that performance engine. But when it comes to needing new tyres for your car, whether you've got a performance car like this, or a city car, an electric car, an SUV, or even a van, buying new tyres can be quite a confusing process. With tyres being critical for your safety on the road, driverreviews.com can help you make the right choice. Driver Reviews can help reduce the stress of finding new tyres for your car. Partnering with many of the largest tyre retailers in the world, Driver Reviews brings you thousands of verified and unbiased tyre reviews covering all of the leading brands. So when you're searching for new tyres, look out for the Driver Reviews logo to give you peace of mind that the reviews come from real customers just like you. To discover your local Driver Reviews partner website and to find out the winning tyres of this year's Customer Choice Awards, visit driverreviews.com. Now this has got a smaller steering wheel on it, the little Nardi steering wheel, which has got a bit of a dish, smaller diameter, thinner rim. Just needed to dispatch the Fiesta there. We've got 964 RS brakes, which are an upgrade. And then the suspension is made by Tractive and it's semi-adaptive. So IBAC springs and a 5-stage little discrete knob on the center console here, just below my phone, which is telling me where to go because I wanted to pick a route that had some good curves to it. We are so blessed with this autumnal weather today. I'm really, really pleased. It's quite mild. I've just got my beanie on for male pattern baldness. I mean, that swell of torque is it just delivers. You don't have to ring it out to 7-point-something thousand RPM. You just don't need to on these sorts of roads. What I love about this is the fact that because although it's got those wider haunches at the back, which are carbon fibre on the Theon, I never once checked my beautiful machine mirrors I don't do a girth check. I point the car where I want it to go. I dodge the patchwork British roads, and I drive it with confidence because I know it fits. If I was driving the current 992 911, I would be worried because although it's an incredible car, even in standard form, of course they're all turbo now, 911s, even in standard form, massively rapid and capable, but sort of begs the question, like, where are you going to use it? Because cars have got very wide. I'm so glad that we're on 17-inch wheels, those Fuchsias with a bit of sidewall bulge going on, which is good for both drive quality and is also really good for looks. And I wouldn't be driving it with such confidence so early on if I didn't trust those Michelin Pilot Sport 4s. 275 40 at the back, I think 235 45 on the front. It sits right, it looks right. Going down these amazing autumnal back roads, luckily on a dry day. Don't want to get that paintwork wet, and I want to be able to explore its grip, even if my drive in this is probably not even pushing the thing 50% of its capability. And talking of 50%, the weight distribution on the Theon is nearly 50-50, because over the nose, right down low in the nose under a false floor, you've got your hydraulic power steering, and you've got your air conditioning module if you've spec'd it, which I wouldn't. That's my aircon. Autumnal Britain is my aircon. I mean, obviously, you're only building 5 a year.
Yes.
You're not a high volume car manufacturer or remanufacturer, whatever you want to call yourself.
No.
So, I mean, price wise, it's like 400 and something.
So yeah, so we start at 410,000 for a coupe and 430,000 for a Targa.
Right. Okay.
So because of all the extra works we have to do for the carbon tubs and everything else,
yeah,
the cost is actually just more for a Targa.
Yeah. So on the one hand, that seems, I mean, it's obviously a lot of money, obviously, to build a special car. But on the other side, there are other resto modding companies, and also not just resto modding companies, I guess manufacturers of supercars, where that price is not a lot, actually.
Yeah.
You know, we are in the realms of multiple supercars being £1 million.
Yes.
So that's double what you've just said.
It is,
So last time I checked.
Yeah, and as I say, and it's because it's this such bespoke experience that our clients enjoy that whole process, because it is a process. It's not just about buying a car and choosing the colour. It's the whole process that we go through together, the whole journey basically to engineer and design a car for them, because it is basically a whole new car for them. Every car is so different.
Yeah.
You know, if you drive all three of these cars, they are a completely different driving experience.
Are they?
Yeah.
And how many hours? Because that's the thing, this is an extremely handmade item.
Yeah, so we're about 6,000 hours per car to build on.
6,000 hours?
Yeah.
Goodness. And the thing is you know, I have had a look under the bonnet, and I have had a look inside, and it is that minutiae of detail, I guess, is when you start to, and I'm somebody that's paid to restore cars. I know how quickly the money can disappear. Yeah. When you are really focusing on the small stuff, to stand back and know that it's a really well put together thing.
Yeah.
And that's where, I mean, just looking at these mirrors, for example, I read about these, and I love the way they fit onto the door. They're glorious.
Thank you.
These were modelled on the
991 Speedster concept. Yes.
Yeah.
I just loved those mirrors, and they were manual and we made them electric, and we went through quite a few design iterations, but this was kind of the final one. It just works, and it just looks like it should be there.
It does look right. Bloody hell. Water. So much confidence from these tyres and the suspension. despite the fact that we've got so much power here, so much NA power, I'm not afraid. I really am starting to wear the car. It sounds cheesy as hell, but it's comfortable and it's really enjoyable, and I guess it just makes you want to use it, which is why these cars get used. That's a Rover Tomcat, another Targa topped vehicle, and probably rarer than a 964 without the provenance of a 964. I mean, just the wiring loom on this car, which has a quick release under the engine bay, so you can take the engine out, they say, in about 5 minutes. Just that loom saves 20 kilos. 1,190 kilos, completely wet, full of fuel, with 400 horsepower. You know, it's weird, with this exhaust on the overrun, it sounds like an E-Type Jag to me. That real definite 6-cylinder bellow. Listen. But the roads are bad, but the car is extremely forgiving and helpful. And frankly, just addictive. That was loud, obviously. I'm going to do the next few curves with it on normal mode, normal exhaust mode. I just can't believe after all these years the 911 has so many addicts and so many followers, and there's just new recipes. That's what it is, isn't it, a Resto Mod? It's a different recipe. There's no mistake that driving this today has been a magnificent experience. The car is so much fun, it's so engaging, and like I might have already said in this feature, the thing about modified 911s is the fact that even though they look pretty, and even though there's lots of little detail, it's not a wow factor car until you're in the driving seat. It's not got the wow factor of a Lambo or a Ferrari, but that's almost what makes it more attractive, I think, to people like me, at least anyway. And of course, you know, as a Porsche owner, my $2,000 Boxster, I can really understand the appeal of this. It's a difficult one for me to make a verdict on as a journalist, because these cars are all built for the individuals. They're all completely bespoke, and they're at a price point where they're way beyond the likes of many of us, including myself. But on the one hand, I would say, would I rather spend my money on, I don't know, a 997 GT3, a 60s 911, and maybe a Carrera T, and have them all in the garage for the same money? Or am I missing the point here? You could have something built exactly the way you want it, and it could be a car for life, a family heirloom even, that you could use as much as you wanted. And if it drives anything like the one I've driven today, it's phenomenal. Anyway, I'd like you to tell me in the comments, are you over these Resto Mod kind of 911s, or do you think they're just so good and each one is just so individual, they're always going to be interesting and aspirational for people like us? If you haven't already, why not subscribe to The Late Break Show to get more variety of features like this, and including new cars as well, and my own project cars, like my cheap bargain Boxster. And if you want to become a Patreon and support us that way for a few quid a month, you get blogs from me about what I'm doing behind the scenes, and also early access to videos just like this.